Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Greetings and welcome to another Galactic Driftwood episode. It looks like Seth is getting eaten by his cat. So this could be an interesting episode, but I think considering the topic of today's episode, that might be appropriate.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Charles.
And I'm Seth.
And today, go ahead.
Before we get started, funny story.
Okay.
My computer has been making this grinding noise as one of the fans dies.
Oh, been there, done that.
Yeah, I've told Bill about it. That giant cat you just saw hopped onto the computer and then up onto me, and now it's not making noise anymore. So,
It feels
IT
threatened.
cat.
IT cat.
IT cat strikes again. Good boy, Pixel.
Nice job. Well, on today's show, we're going to talk about a new horror film that is out. It's currently airing on Hulu, and it is called Fresh. And if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to go see it. There will probably be more than a dozen spoilers in this particular discussion on the show, because we're going to talk about all things related to Fresh and our impressions of it. And I would say giving people a chance to click off here, just without any spoilers. Yay or nay? Did you like it or did you hate it? And let's jump to Seth first.
Well, I'm not a big horror movie fan myself. Like, I've watched a bunch more because of my wife, but I thought this one was pretty good. It was tense, and there was some real body horror stuff in there, but the ending was one I find satisfying.
All right. Linda, we'll go to Linda next.
I agree. I really liked it. I thought it was done well. It was acted fairly well, and I like a mystery though. I like things that you just not quite sure what's going to happen next. So that's my genre that I really like. So, but I thought it was good.
All right. And Charles, I think Charles might have a whole different opinion.
I don't. In general, I don't care much for the. How do you put that? The pervy CSI rapey guy.
Yeah.
Stealing women. I just don't. That part of it's been done. I'm not saying as far as pervy rapey movies go.
Pervy rapey.
Yeah. It was good.
This wasn't so bad. There's some funny moments.
There's actually not to lead our listeners astray, but there wasn't actually any like rapey.
No rape in this film.
But kidnapping.
Yeah. There was kidnapping.
Yes.
Yeah, even though he's rather than he was there was a little rapey. Not he
was more of a gentleman kidnapper, I would say.
Yeah, but she was under duress.
She made poor choices.
To be fair, he was still after their bodies.
Technically, but that's But he's still you can't say the dance with him or the what do you call that? Her last mouthful was
was entirely
It was entirely
Uncoerced.
deserved.
So
yes, but she was under a pressure to. She was trying to get away.
Right.
I was rooting for her.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
But I'm not sure it was a worthwhile. If you're into this kind of movie, then fine. But if you're
We
Yeah,
should
so maybe
probably
we should-
explain to people what the movie's
Yeah.
I
about.
was going to say, can we give a description here?
Yeah, Seth, why don't you take it away there? You have a good way with words, so
which,
All right. Well, the main character of the movie is Noah, who is a single woman. It opens up with her on a blind date with Chad, who is the worst blind date. And you see that she's going through basically Tinder, whatever the movie's in
Whatever the
universe
app is.
for that is. And so she's on the hunt, looking for love, basically, and we meet her her good friend, her best friend, whose name is. Why is she not listed here? That's
Molly?
not great.
Was it Molly?
Molly, I think it
Yeah,
was.
Molly, her best friend Molly, and so we're introduced to that, and then we are introduced to Steve. I believe he tells everyone his name,
Right.
but
Who
in
she
the
meets in
broad,
the grocery store.
yeah, little meet cute in the grocery store. He's charming, she's charmed, and
The
they get
relationship
into
ensues.
they get into a relationship. And the first part of this movie, where they're just like establishing that, it's 30 minutes until we get to the title sting.
Opening credits, yeah.
Yeah, it's
odd.
but it starts out at the quote unquote twist, where we find out that Steve has just basically kidnapped her and has kidnapped other women as well. And not he is still a very going for charming, but now utterly creepy. He tells her that, or she's worried that indeed he has kidnapped her to rape and murder her. But no, it's a little bit. It's different. I don't want to say worse or not, but
Well,
he has.
to me, it would be worse. I would personally.
Well, you don't know.
He has kidnapped her to cut off little bits of her and sell them to extremely rich people for food.
He wants to sell her meat.
Yep,
That's what
he's
he
going
said.
to keep her
And he's
alive and happy as long as he can, because the meat is better fresh.
Yes. And to me, that would be horrible, because eventually he's going to kill her anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. And just knowing that you're going to be kept alive for however many months while he's slowly amputating parts of you to be sold as meat to his select 1% of the 1% clients who just they have enough money to have anything they want. So they want things that nobody can have, which is human flesh. And so that's what he's going to sell. And we find out that Noah is not the only woman currently in his numerous cells in this remote facility that he's got, and that a number of them have already suffered major amputations. And of course, when she finds out that she's now under his control, because once they get to his place, he takes her there and fixes her a drink, and it's all going to be a nice weekend kind of a thing. And of course, she has the drink that's got the usual knockout drugs in it, and she wakes up.
The usual knockout drugs.
Yeah, whatever those are. And she wakes up handcuffed to the floor in this big cell. And that's where he breaks.
A
What's that?
result of numerous poor choices. Because
Right.
everyone watching was like watching all the red flags go up every single step of the way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
And
don't take him back to your place. Stop that.
Right. Right. Well, first of all, he wants to know if he's mentioned her to any of her friends, and if so, who. And he wants to know about those friends. And she only told one person. And of course, she doesn't have any.
He asks questions that are strange, oh, you have any family? And and of course she divulges right away, oh, I only have a few friends, my parents are gone, or don't talk to my mom. And it's like, well, he's got nothing to lose taking her.
She more or less just says, I'm completely on my own and very vulnerable, both emotionally and physically.
If I were to go missing, nobody would be looking for me. But she does have one friend.
That's her, Molly.
And our friend's name is Molly. And they have a characteristic way in which they end all of their phone calls. One of them or the other will say, I love you. And the other one will always respond with, I love you more. And that becomes sort of the giveaway because her friend Noah tells her that this new boyfriend of hers, Steve, whom she's just met and hasn't really even told Molly about until this series of tweets. She tells her that he's taken her on a surprise weekend getaway to a mysterious place. And she'll text her when she gets there and let her know what's going on. Well, of course, the route to this place turns out that they're not going to this place. Steve says the traffic's too bad, so they're going to overnight at his place and go out first thing in the morning. But of course, the road to his place has no cell service and no internet coverage.
Also no traffic.
And no traffic.
Right. That was a problem for me.
Yeah, very remote.
A picturesque road.
Yes, very beautiful road. So anyway, her friend gets suspicious when after a few days, she never hears from her as to where she went or what she's doing. And then all of a sudden, Steve starts communicating with her using Noah's cell phone.
Well, she suspects.
She suspects, and she suspects that because in one point in the conversation, they're saying goodbye, and Molly says, I love you. And Steve just responds with a heart emoji instead of saying, I love you more. Mm-hmm. So that immediately tips her off that something is rotten in wherever they are. So she begins. What?
The state of Denmark.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, over there. Also shows he's a bad, date messenger person, because you would know,
right,
to say I love you more.
Yes. So anyway, she begins an investigation and eventually figures out what's going on and who's behind it. But in the process, of course, she also doesn't seem to have many active friends because other than Noah, because she does all the investigating on her own. And of course, she manages to find Steve and gets taken hostage herself to be used as fresh meat for whatever.
It's just one disaster after another.
Yeah.
At least she takes precautions.
Yeah.
They don't work for her, but she does take them.
Right. And the guy, there was a bartender guy that she was kind of romantically interested in.
Who's she? Molly?
Molly.
Yeah.
Paul the bartender.
What's that?
Paul the bartender.
Paul. Yeah. And so she kind of let him know what was going on, and she actually managed to track down Steve thanks to the help of the bartender, because she knew that the first date that Noah had gone on with Steve was at this bar. So she got the bartender to give her information about the name on the credit card that was used to pay for the evening. So that's how she managed to get on to Steve. But this bartender guy is turns out to be pretty worthless, because she texts him with her
This is a
whereabouts.
picture. Stop
and
for a
her
minute.
map.
This is a picture of Steve doing what he does best.
Yeah, he's carving up somebody's flesh.
Look, and just check. I just want to point out. Check all the knives behind him there. This is where he lives, in his kitchen.
Yeah, he lived in a nice place.
Yeah,
He lives in a very nice place,
Technically.
and he's got plenty of knives. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
He
but you got to be able to
enjoyed
get to
the
him.
job.
So anyway, the bartender eventually, towards the end of the film, manages to figure out what's going on and drive to the place where Molly is being held. And he gets out of his car and he hears screaming and gunshots, and he says, "Nope, nope, nope, I'm out of here."
I know.
And that's the last we
Call
see
the
him.
police.
Yeah, didn't call the police. Didn't do it. What the hell good was that guy?
Not a little
I
bit.
don't-
Spoiler warning, by the way, everyone.
Yeah, I said we'd give him a
we said
little
at
bit
the
of time to
beginning.
tune out. So
I love this. This is in his apartment, and we call this art nachos because look, you can see like little triangular looking nachos in there.
You know, looking at it, it
Yeah.
makes me hungry.
Oh, well, and this is funny because Bill's like, those are parts of people. I'm like, I can't make it out. Was there an ear there?
yeah, it turned out not to be. But behind the picture, he pushes a button and the picture lifts up and reveals little cubicles in the wall there where he's got information on all of his victims.
Not just information, but some of their stuff. I
Yeah,
mean,
they have
personal
stuff,
belongings.
their phones.
each one has a cubby.
With
There it
a
is.
picture. Like, if there's
Yeah.
one thing you can say for this serial killer, he definitely made the police's job easy.
So easy.
Yes. Yeah, he
Well,
also
if he
had
gets
a big
caught,
walk-in. He also had a big walk-in refrigerator with full of body parts tagged with the person's name and the date at which that part was harvested. So that would also help the police quite well,
Yeah.
I would think.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah,
It is kind of
was
weird
kind of
though, 'cause
worthless.
you
And then
you wouldn't want that for a steak. Like, I don't really
Which?
want to have a picture of the cow.
Ah. Well, I think for his particular business model, it was kind of a.
I know it
loose
got me
box.
to thinking. I was like, that's the worst thing in most of my food.
You
don't
don't
want to see a
know
picture
their
of it.
name.
I don't want to know how social they've been, or no.
Yeah. But yeah, he would fix up these boxes that would go to this select clientele, and they would have a package of meat from one individual that he had, along with some of their personal effects, brassieres, panties, whatever. And hair. Yep.
Oh,
And it's also only women that
Because
he
they
carves
taste
up and
better.
sends out because they
Explains
taste
it.
better, supposedly. And he does have a great concern for the quality of his product, because he mentions to Noah that it's best that she not react with a lot of fear, because that chemical will taint the meat. So just relax, go with the flow. He says everybody dies at some point. So it's just when and where. So get used to it. Now, what you see on the screen there now is a picture of Steve's actual wife.
yeah. She finds out he has a wife and a family.
And at this point, she's trying to stretch her skin back, I think, to see what she would look like if she were to get a facelift, because she's starting to age a little bit. And of course, he's still picking up young women for this meat business that he's running. And she's aware of what's going on. And I got the impression, and Seth, tell me if you and Charles and Linda,
Well,
if
she
you
was
agree
missing-
with this, that the wife was missing
Wig.
the was a right leg below the knee.
Yeah.
She had a prosthetic there, right? And Steve had mentioned that the first time he tried something, he was intoxicated and that was it. But, and I started wondering based on the way he was talking about it, because he started talking about the first time after we saw her with her fake leg. And I started thinking, well, maybe he took her leg and that was his first exposure to human flesh. And that's what sent him down that road.
I didn't get that impression, but maybe if I were to rewatch this, that would come out a bit more. But I didn't get that. I kind of just assumed that so the thing about Steve is that he is falling for Noah during this process.
He really is in love with
we
her.
learned that he thinks she's special and whatnot. And I kind of assumed that Anne, his wife, was kind of the same. And this was kind of the process that happened.
But they didn't get into that too
far. That could be too, that he got started with her, but then fell in love with her, ended up marrying her.
Mm-hmm.
And
his wife seemed awfully, he seemed to be looking for someone that could laugh and dance and stuff.
Right.
And his wife seemed awfully cold.
Subdued.
Yeah.
Utterly dead inside.
Seemed like it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe that was the thing. And
maybe.
But yeah, part of the real weirdness of the movie is that Noah decides that she needs to gain his trust first to escape, and so she really commits to playing along with him and feeding into his delusion about her.
Well, because she tried to escape, right? Once.
Right.
And what did he do? He hacked her butt off.
Yeah, she lost her ass in that one.
Yeah, I'm taking your ass. I'm
literally.
Like, what?
Yeah. Somebody got a nice rump roast.
That
weekend. But yeah. So after that, and the fact that she is able to talk through the wall, through the ventilation system to the other women that are held there, and she finds out that they're further along in the process than she is, missing legs,
parts.
Entire legs and arms and stuff. Some
of them are going crazy.
Yeah. And she gets he delivers her some reading material, a magazine or something like that. Well, there's something in the magazine, one of the magazines, a handwritten note from an earlier victim who has long since passed, that says, if you're reading this, that means he likes you and you need to use that to your advantage to try to escape. And so she starts playing into it, asking him, well, what does it taste like?
Yeah.
Human flesh. And he starts thinking, oh, maybe I have a fellow fan of cannibalism here right in my cell. So he fixes her a meal of a woman whose name was Hope.
And then they have a good laugh about that.
Yeah, they thought it was pretty hilarious. And so she starts playing along and laughing at his jokes and his puns, and starts making some of her own. And eventually he's fixing more and more meals for her. He's telling her, this meal we're eating here and that one that you see in the dish there, he says that's a $30,000 meal right there. But anyway, she has her first meal, and when she's back in her room, she's throwing up. So you can tell that this whole process is really tearing her apart, but it's the only hope she has for getting out of there alive. So she plays along. And
some truly Bill level puns.
Yes, right. In fact, at one point, they're eating the breast, I think, of Molly, because he's torn Molly's, removed her breast. And he's a former plastic surgeon, so he knows what he's doing in this respect. So anyway, she's eating it, and she goes, well, this is the breast meat I've had in a long time. kind of a pun.
You
That sort of
saved
thing.
the breast for last.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, save the breast for last. That was it. And so he loves her puns, and she pretends to love his puns, and then before you know it, he's forgetting to handcuff her, and then they're dancing, and then pretty soon it's time to do the hop on the bad foot and do the good thing, or hop on the good foot and do the bad thing, however that goes. And so she runs into the bathroom to freshen up and comes out and goes down on him. And you see a close-up of her face as she opens her mouth and shows her teeth and dives in and just bites his manhood right off. And of course,
she's just a bloody mess.
She's a bloody mess. There's lots of screaming. I would have expected to see more in the line of spurting blood, because you would expect at that point that he would have been hard. There would have been a lot of blood flowing to his genitalia, right? And as he bit it, you would have expected, I mean, she had blood around her chin and her mouth, but I would have expected more of a gusher of blood, like when you cut somebody's jugular or something.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad that Benito isn't here for this.
Yeah.
Maybe
he would have had
tell us.
Right. He's Benito. Thanks to Benito is how we got turned on to this whole.
Please
this
don't
whole
say
film.
turned on.
Right.
In this context.
But yeah, Benito let us know about this film and that it was worth watching. And so yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because he does, as those of you that longtime listeners of this show will know, he's into special effects, Wetworks special effects studio he runs. So he does a lot of bloody special effects for horror films in the Omaha area. He said it was pretty good, but
I think this, as far as special effects go, I didn't see anything unbelievable.
No, and I was particularly impressed by the food product, the meat that they showed. That it looked different
appetizing
enough. What's that?
It still looked appetizing. Like they made it look like human flesh.
Yeah.
Right.
And they still then made it look appetizing, which was unsettling.
Yes, very. And so I'd be interested in knowing what Benito thought of that particular scene. But anyway, and then the other thing is, I would think even without the spurting of blood, there would have been enough blood loss there rather rapidly that he would not have been able to chase them
run
down.
after her, right?
Well,
because he's screaming in pain, but then he manages in his fury to get up, probably adrenaline fuel.
Well, he is a little drunk too.
Anger, well, true, but he gets up, and of course he's holding his missing manhood parts there. Well, I mean, he's trying to keep the blood from gushing out, and he's running around without any pants on. But I would think that the blood loss would have been so substantial, because he gets into a fight with her. She manages to get away from him long enough to let Molly out, and one of the other women that are there, a woman named Penny, who's the only other one that's sane enough to get out. Although Penny can't really run too far because she's only got one leg and one arm, so they kind of have to help her out. But then they run into him, and then they have this big fight in the kitchen, and he's got enough strength and energy, despite all of that blood loss, to fight three women.
Yeah.
And granted, one of them, only has a single arm and a leg, but they're seriously fighting with him.
I think, well, there's like certain advantages that the bad guys in horror movies get, and it's usually it translates into a superhuman ability to deal with injury and manage injury and pain. Because he gets stabbed at least once.
Yeah.
Gets hit in the head with a meat tenderizer, just like whack. Like that,
and not just once, several times.
That's dead for anyone.
Right. But anyway, and
Yeah.
and then the other thing that got me is once they hit
Once he
him
was
with the
down,
meat tenderizer and knocked him out, why didn't they just finish him off instead of
yeah,
just
I
leaving him
know.
there and running out?
yeah. It's like, have you
Yes.
guys not seen this movie before?
Right.
You've
I
got
mean, it certainly would be justifiable homicide at that point.
It was, yeah. But even I was bothered that he knows he's a bad guy and he still let her. Um, he knows she wants to escape. I
Right.
don't know, and he let her get close to him in that way.
Yeah.
It just
Hard to believe.
I don't know. I
no,
think
when
I
she
think
made
it's
this-
I think it's some I think most men have an
yes,
inflated opinion of their personal appeal to the opposite sex.
but he'd
Such
already cut her
that
butt off. I mean,
any
that's a little
woman,
different.
such that any woman that appears to be interested in him, they can't see it as anything but genuine because of course they'd be interested in me. I'm a macho man kind of a
No,
thing.
no, that's
I don't think that's what was at work here. I think that Steve had thoroughly, like, you hear him talk about eating human flesh.
yeah. It
And
was that she
how
wanted to
he
eat it too.
describes it and how he describes the work he does. And you can tell he's completely bought into his own bullshit.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
that's his crazy. He's
Right.
not like a emotionless sociopath who's just good at blending in. He is just that fucked up in the head that he doesn't see anything. He doesn't see that he's doing anything wrong.
Wrong. Right. So
Right.
why would she want to leave?
And
Well, and she
like,
begins to
he
use
thinks
his
it's
own.
just a frame of mind that
Mhm.
Yeah.
you do this and you see like the truth and you become like him. And so she eats the meat and he assumes that she sees
He's
the
now
world
become
the
like
same
him.
way now.
Well, and she
Yeah.
begins describing tries to describe the texture and how it's indescribable texture, almost mirroring the way he was kind of describing it to her. And so I think he buys into the whole thing completely because she's speaking his language, and he sees her, I think, starting down that same path to this obsession that he began. And so that's why he kind of falls for her story completely,
Mm-hmm.
and becomes in the end vulnerable, and as a result disaster ensues. But I thought it was funny that at the end, when he's out chasing them through the woods behind this remote facility that he's got,
Because of
and
course.
and of course he's got a gun and he's trying to shoot them somewhere. He grabbed a gun, and so they're running as best they can, and eventually they get into a fight, and they do kill him about the time that his wife shows up
Yeah. Yeah.
to find out what's going on. Well, so the wife stumbles on the body along with this guy who's with her, who is their delivery man, essentially. And
He's not important.
No.
That was a lot of work for the ending line. That's
right.
I don't know
And
if
so
it's
she, she essentially says, I guess we better get him on ice quickly, because she's thinking, well, here's some valuable meat that I can
Money
sell.
to be made.
Right. Money to be made. So it was obvious that there was no emotional attachment to this guy.
Well, no,
For
because
her.
it looked like there kind of was.
You
I think
think?
it was. Yeah. Well, in the next not the next scene, it's still the same scene, but what happens like right after is that Noah comes back looking for the phone that she's dropped. Another rookie mistake. You shouldn't go back alone.
Right.
But she comes back, and the wife, or Steve's wife, finds her, and at first she's like, it's over, we're free. And
she baited her.
And then she starts strangling her to death.
Right, because there's more meat to be had.
Well, I don't think it was because of that. I think the wife was just also completely broken. And had one of those really harmful codependent relationships with Steve. Like, she was part of the crime. The thing that had happened to her, she's been doing to other people.
See, and I
didn't see that, but that's interesting.
I was wondering at that point if maybe she started the whole thing and Steve worked for her, or was, at that point you're really not sure who's,
because it felt to me like she was mad that the operation had been but hard to say.
Although that wouldn't explain why she was missing part of a leg and he wasn't missing any body parts.
Well, nobody said that he's the one who took it off either.
They did have some scenes where she saw the wine glasses and stuff in the house.
You're right.
Yeah.
So that did suggest a jealousy.
Or
whatever you want to call that.
Huh.
But there was some screwed up stuff going. There's
everywhere, every which way.
Steve and his wife are just thoroughly crazy people, utterly broken in the brain. One, because he did it to himself, and because I'm pretty sure he did it to her.
Right.
Just the whole process of being in his basement and then him slowly breaking her down just broke her. That was my reason.
It could be that she was the one that wrote the note in the magazine too.
That was.
Yeah.
Well, no, we saw who that was because
she was in one of the little vignette boxes behind the picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sammy Akbari or something, I think was the woman's name. Yeah.
Okay.
So
interestingly enough, we watched this with a couple of other people, and interestingly enough, they had the same response as you, Charles, in the beginning. They got to the part where you actually see the credits in the beginning.
Oh,
and they were so uncomfortable they didn't even want to go on because they saw it coming.
Mm-hmm. It was right after the reveal where he explains why she's there. She's to be fresh meat.
I get upset, not over this movie necessarily, but it's close in the beginning to. I've seen some CSIs and stuff where it's just that they're not presented as horror films. And I had to leave the gym once because there was a CSI, and the whole thing was from the bad guy's perspective.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just when they do that. And I was watching it without sound and stuff, so I wasn't getting sucked in the way you might. Yeah. And it just was a little, to me, it just was something like I don't think it should be on prime time. No, this isn't.
Well,
it rings to I've just it's a I've got mixed feelings.
Everyone has different things that
I don't have the fear of blood and stuff as a couple of people we watched this with.
Right.
Yeah. So everyone's got different, very personal things that really.
Yeah, I'm not over. Out. It's not like it was. I wasn't getting irate about it or anything. It's just.
Well, no, it's the horror aspect.
Yeah,
it's the thing that you don't want to see, like.
I suppose
the whole kidnapping thing is really high up there for me.
Yeah.
I think probably the horror movie that type of horror movies that freak me out the most are the ones with when someone's breaking into another house. Like that's the thing I almost can't watch because it's just so real and freaky to me. Meanwhile, I can watch the zombie is just chowing down on a guy and I'm like, he's got a lot of ropes out of him right now.
Yeah. Well, and this movie was pretty realistic. I mean, from the dating part of the dating scenes on through this,
there's some humor.
I can see where a film like this might be hard for some people to digest. But
Oh, God damn it, Bill. Oh, you had that thought of ahead of time.
Is there any doubt?
I was waiting to
No.
squeeze that in, but I didn't want to do it too soon because I know how you get, Seth.
Oh, I get it. I think it's another member of this podcast who raises more or had raised more complaints than me. I just want to make you feel good, and that's why I go. But no, the first part of this movie, like they nail the serial killer like methodology and motivations, kind of.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the charming guy who singles out someone and slowly figures out that they're alone and vulnerable. And I mean, if you listen to your true crime podcast or whatever, kind of like I do, there's a lot of similarities there that are just like, you know what's going on. I don't know how that lands with somebody who doesn't know like all the little tricks that can be used, but
Right.
I don't know, maybe it strikes different for different people, where if you just think, oh,
I think they did a pretty good job of.
This is a nice meet cute. I'm watching a rom-com, and then the twist where she gets drugged is just that much worse. Whereas I'm like seeing this and I'm going, oh, I know exactly where this is going. So there wasn't much of a twist there until he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use your food. So like if somebody just like bought that, like I could see that twist being much worse if you didn't know you were watching a horror movie for some reason.
Right.
All right. Well, we're about what are we? 41 minutes into the show here. Did you have a last thought, Charles?
Oh, I just was thinking. I remember we watched Get Out a long time ago.
Yes.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
That scared me. No, it didn't have, I don't think, the gore and stuff. That scared me more than this one did.
Yeah.
So I just thought, if you're into horror, if you haven't watched the more stuff, if you wanted to see something, I thought Get Out was a better movie overall.
Okay.
Just from a long time ago, it's not a newer movie necessarily.
Yeah.
But
right.
And Jordan Peele's got a new one coming out really soon. Nope.
Yeah.
About aliens.
I want to see that.
Definitely do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to encourage our listeners, if you've seen it, post something in the comments. Let us know what you thought. Were you intrigued by it? Did you enjoy it? Or were you fed up?
Or do you think a meatball is the best first meal for human flesh?
Right. Human meatballs. All right. Well, on that note.
Give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave us a comment, and check out our sister shows on the Synergy Nation Network, synnation.net.
All right. We'll see you all later. Thanks for tuning in. Take care and have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.